I've never been a big fan of Casio G-Shocks, and I have also stated so in a video I made about a similar watch to this watch in April 2019, saying that I would probably never own a G-Shock. And here I am, I have a Casio DW5600BB, and in this video I'm going to review it and maybe go through my thought process why I ended up buying this G-Shock anyway, despite my doubts. Really wasn't expecting myself to praise a G-Shock this much. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to the Nordic Watch channel. I'm Anders from Finland, and as I already said, my first ever G-Shock in my collection, and a review and my thoughts on this watch and why I ended up buying it. So this is the blacked out version of the classic DW5600, which gives it the reference BB at the end. And this model was actually released, to my understanding, in 2012, so it's been a long production already, soon going on 10 years, and it's showing no signs of slowing down. So there is some appeal to this watch still. And why I ended up buying this watch is I like the nice blacked out look of it, and I did want to try out the G-Shock because I had heard that these square designs are not as bulky as G-Shocks usually are, and I figured I'd give it a go on my 6.5-inch wrist, and just maybe it would be a size that I could pull off. And actually I ended up being positively surprised. This thing sits surprisingly small on the wrist, and I actually really like this watch. The reason I chose this watch before the more classic 5600 is I like the negative display. It gives it a sleek look, and I've never been a fan of Casio's way to printing all the watch's specs on the dial or display of the watch. So I really like how on this watch they kept it to an absolute minimum, just printing the different names of the buttons here on the screen and leaving all the other things out of it. So that gives it a really nice, clean and stealthy look, which I really like. Also, this watch I think retails for around $100. I think it's $99. And I also checked Amazon. In Europe you can get this watch for 80 euros off of Amazon, and it's around $100 on the US Amazon, which equals around 80 euros. So I think with this watch you get the grit of G-Shocks, and even the benefits you get from many of the higher end G-Shocks, but you actually get that for a very low price. And also, due to the blacked out sleek design, you get all of that in a really appealing and attractive package with an all blacked out design. And I think it's just a look that not many G-Shocks have to offer, and it's the only one that really appealed to my taste. I'll also leave some affiliate links to US, Canadian and different European Amazon stores to the best bargains I could find for this watch at around 80 euros or $100. So if you're interested in getting this watch and you want to help the channel out without paying anything extra, buy from one of those links and it helps me out a ton. But now let's continue with this review. I already mentioned that this watch is pretty popular. I would believe that it's one of the top sellers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Traits of the watch that I believe that serve this popularity is, well, it's all black, which is very easy to pair with all kinds of clothing. It doesn't really jump out when it's on your wrist. It's not so noticeable. It's also affordable, costing only a little bit more than the classic DW5600. It has a really clean and sleek design with less printing on the dial, and it's really functional. It does come with well, pretty basic functions, but I'll go through them soon. And it's kind of small, or you could say it's a friendly size to smaller wrists like mine. and I'll go through the dimensions now. Well, the closest thing to a diameter, I believe you could call it maybe a ear to ear. So from this thing protruding here to this thing, it is 42.8 millimeters. Then we have a 48.9 millimeter lug to lug. So from this end to this end, where the strap begins, it's 48.9. So that's below 50 millimeters. So it's well, I wouldn't say subtle, but it is below 50, and that's okay for a 6.5 inch wrist. And then we have a 13.4 millimeter thickness, which is surprisingly slim because this thing actually hugs the wrist pretty nicely. So I'm really surprised that this thing is surprisingly unnoticeable, and it doesn't catch on things as often as I was expecting. I've been using this for a lot of handiwork at home. Anything that, well, I do have like tool watches, but you know, when you have maybe a Seiko SKX or something that is your beater, it still kind of hurts when you bash it on something and you get a scratch. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get a G-Shock, for all those occasions when I'm wearing a beater watch, but I don't really want to bash it up too bad. So this is for all that kind of work. It's actually also a pretty nice set and forget watch that you can have in your watch box, ready to go anytime, so you don't have to wind it up, set the date. This thing has a automatic calendar all the way to 2099, so I won't be needing to set the calendar anytime soon on this watch. This module, Casio, promises you an accuracy of plus or minus 15 seconds per month, so you won't be needing to reset the time very often, but okay, sometimes, occasionally, every now and then you have to set it like 1 minute back or forth, but pretty careless. It comes with a 3229 movement or module, and I will make a separate video going through all the details with this module and showing you all the features. I won't be doing it in this video, but I will give you a quick look at all the features on this watch. The battery this thing uses is a CR2016 battery, which are easily available, but they do only last for 2 years to my understanding in this watch. So that's a surprisingly short period of time. I was expecting like a 10-year battery life on this one, as it seems that many Casios have, but I think 2 years is just fine. This Casio G-Shock does come with 200 meters of water resistance, as you might expect. And the 3229 module comes with a few basic functions that you might expect from Casio, and some of them are probably familiar from before, but we'll just go through them quickly. So, as usual, we have these 4 buttons here, stainless steel buttons, which are a little bit inside the case, so they're quite hard to get to if you have big fingers. I don't have really that problem. Here we have the home screen with the day, month and date, and as mentioned, it has an automatic calendar all the way to the year 2099, so you don't have to worry about that. Then we have that small indicator there showing me that I'm using military time or 24-hour time, as we usually do in Europe, so not but you can switch that to AM PM time if you want. Moving along from the home screen, we have an alarm function, which might be familiar from other Casio models. A difference here is that we can also set which month and which day this alarm is active for, so it's not for every day, but if we leave them blank there, then they are active for all days. So, but I will make a tutorial on this module later. I'm not going to go through that kind of detail here in this video. And as usual, we have the alarm function, as I already talked about, and the SIG is the one that you probably know as the hourly chime, so one or a beep every hour if you have that on, or both of them on, and now they're both off. Next up, we have, it went back to this one. Watch has a function that if you do something on one of these modes and you press the mode button again, it goes straight back to the time mode, so you don't have to scroll through all the modes. So that's a pretty nifty function in this module, which many really basic Casio modules do not have. So that's why I jumped back to the time now without scrolling through the other modes. So let's continue. We have the alarm mode. Then we have a countdown timer that goes from 24 hours down to 0, and you can set this on the precision of 1 second. And a nice thing about this module is also that it shows the time here up in a window. Even though you're using another function, you can still see the time up there. Next up, we have the stopwatch, which might be familiar from other modules, also up to 60 minutes to, if I can remember. I have to check if that's 60 or 99 minutes. I think it's 60 minutes. But more on that on the module tutorial video. And then we have the time window. So those are your basic functions on this watch. And we also have a nice electroluminescent light here, which is this blue or teal kind of color that glows for a second or two when you press the button. Oh yeah, and it also has a function. If you hold the start-stop button like this, you can see that little logo or blip there, and that just means that if you have anything set here, like a countdown timer or alarm or the hourly chime, then when this watch beeps, it will also light up the screen if this is activated here. So that's a cool little function on this Casio. But those are the features of this module in a nutshell. As I said, more on that later in a different video. The case of this watch is made out of resin, as is the strap, which is a popular material with Casios, and probably most people are familiar with that material already. Here on this model, the actual crystal is a mineral crystal, which is nice. And a smart thing they did is protect that crystal with protruding resin here. So if you bash it on something, you more probably catch the resin part on it and won't scratch the crystal. But I have to say, one downside with this is that this area here does collect, I'd have to say, a lot of dust and debris. So you'll always be taking off smudges and garbage from this kind of tray here. But it's a gritty watch, so it's not meant to be like smudgeless all the time. Yeah, the strap is also resin, and I was first thinking that these were kind of the same type of bends in the strap as on divers, which would prevent stress to the spring bars when you catch it on something and the strap gets like yanked. But this is actually, to my understanding, to protect the vulnerable case back of the watch, and it acts as a spring if you drop it or something. So that's pretty clever by Casio. Time for a wrist shot to show you how this thing sits on a 6.5-inch wrist, and one of the big reasons why I ended up buying this watch. And there you can see how it sits on my 6.5-inch wrist, and it was a really pleasant surprise. As I've said many times in this video, really doesn't sit much larger than Casio Royale, which I will show here soon. But yeah, it hugs the wrist pretty nicely with that strap. Yeah, the resin strap is really comfortable, which is good because this is a real quirky strap to try to switch out to another strap, which I will tell you about shortly. But yeah, this just wears really great on my wrist, and it's surprisingly slim, and it doesn't get caught on stuff like I was expecting. Just as a comparison, here is my Casio AE1200, the black version, and as you can see, it doesn't really sit that much smaller than the G-Shock. I didn't have the original resin strap for this one. I have a 22mm NATO that I cut out for this watch. If you want to see how I did that, check out the video up here. This one didn't end up so nice, but it was what I happened to have for this video. But yeah, I think one of the factors why this looks so small on the wrist is due to the fact of the black kind of glass surrounding the display, because I think that has the similar effect to like a thick bezel on a watch, which makes the display in this case look smaller, or it would make the dial look smaller. So I think that's one of the things that makes this G-Shock wear especially small. So big recommendation to guys with smaller wrists, like 6 inches or 6.5 inch wrists, to try out this G-Shock and give it a shot, because actually it looks smaller than this Casio Royale here, in my opinion. I think it's largely due to that display. And just another comparison with both watches on hand. As you can see, actually pretty obvious that the G-Shock wears smaller than this Casio Royale. So yeah, just wanted to show you guys that. And man, I just like the way this watch looks. Great with like fitness attire and stuff like that. Just a really great casual watch. And it's so lightweight that you forget you have it on. Now, as I shortly mentioned there, this watch is not that easy to switch out the strap for, and that's partly due to these kind of special lugs here. The spring bar is really narrow. I think it's what could be like 14 millimeters, and when you take it off, it takes this kind of a big chunk out of this case or lug here. And what I tried, I ordered these off of Amazon for like 6 euros. I can put a link to these if you're interested, but bear with me here before you purchase these. These are kind of converters that you install on the lugs, which after you can put a NATO strap through them and wear this G-Shock on a NATO strap. But I'll put some footage in here. First of all, it was pretty difficult. I don't know if that was just me being klutz, but it was pretty difficult to get these parts on this watch in the first place. But once I got them on and put a NATO strap on, this thing wore bulky, like really big. I'll put some footage in here just to show you. I think it wears a lot smaller on this resin strap, which is why I'm going to keep it that way. I would have liked to put this on a gray NATO strap or something, but this just works way better. So, okay, so wrapping this video up, just a short pros and cons list about this watch. Let's start with the cons. So there are not many cons with this watch. One of these cons is though that the ability to wear this watch on a NATO straps are slim to none, or for me at least, with a smaller wrist, it just looks kind of dumb. And I don't want to do that. Another one is maybe these buttons are a little bit, they could be protruding a little bit more, but I know if they would be protruding more, they would be more vulnerable to getting damaged. So that's a pretty good reason probably to why they are hidden inside the case like that, but they can sometimes be a little bit difficult to press. Other than that, I don't really have many problems with this watch. In this case, the pros list is probably a little bit overwhelming compared to the cons. Just great specs, good accuracy as usual with quartz, good function with this module, really legible dial which surprised me, good backlight on it also. Overall, really sleek design, and sits really nicely on the wrist also, which was a great surprise. And yeah, what's not to like? 200 meters of water resistance, built like a tank, really lightweight. I didn't mention that actually, it's like 60 grams or something. I think that pretty much sums it up in my case. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe to this channel if you like my content. And also check me out on Instagram at Nordic Watch Channel. I post there semi-regularly. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye bye.